CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee. That's the summit of all summits where a bunch of conservatives will be there, and I've been invited. I'll be there speaking as well as interviewing a lot of different people in the conservative movement. Really looking forward to that. Now, I am not campaigning for Romney, but I do like Romney, and I am a conservative, and he is the only conservative on the ballot. I mean, if you want to talk about that, call in. There is no other conservative on the ballot, unfortunately. We've got a bunch of people who are pretending to be conservatives, and you know who you are. We've got people who are pretending, like John McCain, unfortunately, to actually be a conservative. And it's getting to the point where it's kind of annoying. Some of these McCain supporters are just, McCain has gone a long way, and basically the man is where he is because of his war record. Since when do conservatives beat up on people who honestly earn their money? I mean, think what you want of Romney. Nobody would ever claim that this man is dishonest or that he hasn't earned what he has, right? And yet here's McCain telling everyone, hey, you did it for profit. You're just taking advantage. You're just taking advantage, and you did it for profit. And of course, another comment he made. Of course, there were some layoffs you had to make back then, and there were some layoffs. And as if the government doesn't lay people off. In fact, a lot of conservatives would like the government to lay some people off. Let's face it. For the most part, most Republicans don't know much about John McCain. All they know about the man is that, number one, they rejected him back in 2000. And number two, that he's a former prisoner of war. And again, that brings us back to the question. That nagging question that's always out there is, are you entitled to the presidency for being a war hero? Would you be entitled just because you happen to be a war hero? I mean, think about it. There's a lot of war heroes out there. John McCain is a losing prospect. And it could even be worse. It could even be worse, because if John McCain actually gets into power, he will so misrepresent what conservatives stand for, and we're going to get back to that in a second. I mean, what do conservatives stand for today? But he will so misrepresent what conservatives stand for that it'll be like Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger ran as a conservative, ran as a Republican, and guess what? What do we have? We have a non-conservative running California. Why is it that we haven't really had the religious conversation yet with Barack Obama? Why isn't anyone questioning, the fact that this is a man whose father was a Muslim? His father was a Muslim. He went, from what I understand, in Indonesia, he went to a religious school that was, they call it secular. I don't know what that means in Indonesia. But he went to a religious school. And that his father was a Muslim. I mean, where's that whole conversation? Where are people on this? I don't understand why the press hasn't really talked about that at all. That's an amazing thing. Talking about movies, I've got to get over to our poll, which was the Brokeback Mountain controversy. I got all this hate mail on this one. There's the mafia that doesn't care much. For anyone who doesn't agree with Brokeback Mountain or anything that has to do with anyone who tries to challenge the Brokeback Mountain. And the question is was he typecast as the actor, as the cowboy? The gay cowboy in the film. So I asked that question, put it up on our site. We had some participation in this. And at first the poll started off roughly once in favor yes and then no. But in the very end, I noticed a lot of votes coming in from specific places. But long story short, it ended up being 30 to 70. So the answer to that was no. most of the readers or most of our listeners thought that he was not typecast as a gay cowboy, which is fascinating. A lot of Americans feel that having a mulatto or a half-black president would somehow redeem us. Does anyone want to go to Cuba for their free medicine? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, what's the fat guy's name? The director who did that film that tanked. He wanted to go to Cuba, and he said he went to Cuba to check out their free medicine. This is Michael Moore. Michael Moore, that's it, the fat guy who went down, the fat director who went down to Cuba. There are no big Cubans and there are no big people in Cuba like Michael Moore because they just don't have very much to eat, frankly. It's one of the few places where one of the few tropical islands where you can't get a piece of fruit.